Good evening and welcome to our program. Our guest tonight is Mr. Saleh Meki, the Minister of Health and a member of the National Assembly. Welcome to our program.
Thank you, sir.
All right. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
All right. Okay. Good to have you with us tonight. My first question is, during the 12th session of the National Assembly, there was assessment evaluation. And one of the evaluation or assessments was that the TPLF regime's consecutive invasion was futile. Their expectation was not met. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, of course, as you said, the overwhelming, this point that was discussed in this 12th Assembly, the Parliament was, of course, is preoccupied, as every Eritrean is today, about the constant war that's been declared by Ethiopia, in the name of Ethiopia, by the way, in the League. And then we said, the Parliament said in the National Assembly, where are we after 20 months of continuous war or threat of war and economic imposition? What is the general situation? And the assessment, of course, was positive. The 20 months ago, we were surprised by this war. We didn't expect it. We didn't want it. The people of Eritrea have had enough war of 30 years. After the victorious ending of the war 9 years ago, the Eritrean people hope that they will have a time for peace and reconstruction. Our country was destroyed. There was no infrastructure. Our human resource was depleted. So the overwhelming desire of the Eritrean people was to have peace and to develop their nation. So when this war was declared on us, once again, we have to defend our right and our sovereignty. And the fact that it came from an area that we didn't expect, and its viciousness, it's an absolute, complete desire for a war for a long period, did, in fact, sadden the people of Eritrea. But of course, we defended our country before and we will defend it again. So every Eritrean, young or old, at home and abroad, raise up to this challenge. The TPLF's regime, and as you said, expectation in the beginning of the war was we can invade Eritrea in 2 days and get over done with it. Of course, that didn't come to pass because their assessment of the weakening of the Eritrean National Defense Forces, their perception of our economic weaknesses, their somehow dream of just walking through Eritrea didn't come to materialize because they should have known better. You know, if we, for the first time in our history, we got a country we call our own. Every Eritrean was proud to have a nation of his own, and to snatch it away from them wasn't going to be an easy task. So, in the first, in military terms, in political terms, in diplomatic terms, since we were not prepared for war, for example, the Assembly assessed why did the international community had a wrong impression of that Ethiopia was invaded. Of course, that's not true. The TPLF invaded and then it screamed its head off. And of course, this idea that Eritrea is aggressive spread all over the world 20 months ago. If we see today, the world is having a correct view that Eritrea wants peace. The Assembly admired the Eritrean people's determination to persistently, continuously work for peaceful resolution of this conflict. If you talk about it politically, the TPLF convinced many people at home in Ethiopia and abroad that their land was invaded, but I think you can hardly now find anyone except the die-hard awareness that Eritrea has any aggressive intention on Ethiopians at all. So in our overall assessment, both in political terms, in diplomatic terms, in our ability in the defensive forces, most of our army was in fact removed from the army and went to civilian life. We were engaged in all sorts of economic development. And now, of course, every Eritrean, young or old, is up in arms in defending his land. So in our ability to protect our sovereignty, to protect our territorial integrity, has become an obsession with every Eritrean. Through it all, we have been asking for peace. So at least the international community now, if they have any justice, realize that the Eritreans and the Eritrean government wants to protect itself and wants to solve this problem peacefully. And so overall, the assessment of the National Assembly in all areas of this conflict is positive. The progress we've made is fantastic, and we are ready to protect our land and our territory and to protect our sovereignty. But at the same time, we are ready to accept the peaceful resolution on this, because we have accepted the OAU resolution in Algeria, the last one. So the Assembly said Eritrea should push for the acceptance, to force Ethiopia to accept the resolution that itself has been arguing for 2 years. It is a just resolution. So, and we hope that the international community would in fact put what it has been saying for a long time.
Yeah, we'll go to that later. But do you think the TPLF regime is changing gears, like peace, the no war kind of strategy to make something?
Of course, you said what was the assessment in the beginning. The question is, in the beginning, of course, their expectation that this war would be simple. The Eritreans are defenseless. That economically, they are incapable of defending their land. They are disenfranchised somehow. The people are not happy. All that, in their view, was made it very possible that the Eritreans, of course, were engaged in conflict with the other neighboring countries, with Sudan, and Yemen, and Djibouti, and the rest of it. So either they were convinced or convinced themselves that this would be an easy task. Now, if you ask today, any fair assessment would say this is not their perception of it. So the new dogma that's been perpetuated by the Wayane clique, of course, is, well, this is a long war. We're going to weaken Eritrea economically. It cannot withstand to defend itself for too long. So in this no war, no peace situation, is the advantage of the Ethiopian invading force. Now, we feel that is wrong, and the assemblies made this clear, that no peace, no war is a war to us Eritreans and to the Ethiopian people. Whom is it benefiting? Maybe it benefits this Tigray Wayane leadership, but for the people of Eritrea, we are engaged in a war. We are trying to protect ourselves, or our thoughts, or our economic capability as it is, or our thinking is to defend this territory and the sovereignty that we have gained after so much suffering. Whether it is doing anything to the Ethiopian people, even to the people of Tigray. I mean, Ethiopia is a poor country. Everybody knows 8-9 million people are starving. I know its social services is non-existent in malaria or AIDS or something. The president of Ethiopia himself admitted that this is a serious problem. So whether in economic terms, in social terms, in political terms, Ethiopia is falling apart from the resistance of the different nationalities in Ethiopia. So 20 minutes hence, this no-war peace situation is somehow going to hurt Eritrea and going to benefit Ethiopia is bankrupt in thought. It's untenable and it's unacceptable.
So it's another failure on their part.
It is a total failure, and it's not going to be allowed to continue, because we believe the international community have presented a proposal in its last meeting in the OAU in Algiers. We accepted those proposals. We were told the Ethiopians will accept it. We were told to wait and wait and wait. Now it's 7 months since this proposal was. Now shouldn't the international community say that Ethiopia rejected this way? Everybody knows, except those who seem to be running this show in this international community, that Ethiopia rejected this proposal. And if it rejected this proposal, then it must pay the consequences of its rejection. It cannot play these games of we are studying it, we have questions, there is a full stop in page 1, there is this sentence in page 3. This is, of course, preposterous. So either we were told either you accept it or you reject it. It's a take no or yes.
Unequivocal.
Unequivocal
And very
proposal.
clear, right.
And we accepted unequivocal. Now, when we said, why was this has not been done to Ethiopia, they said, give them time. And, you know, fine. They had questions. That was the answer. Of course, we know this is a game they're playing. And of course, everybody with any sense knows that this regime is not going to accept this proposal easily. It might under certain circumstances, but those circumstances are not being created because they are getting away with it. While they are delaying this acceptance or refusal openly, in practice, they have rejected it, and they are preparing their armed forces to invade Eritrea again. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense, of course, to us. But if you consider a sensible way, a logical way, it's not going to make sense to anyone. Why do they want war? They are not militarily in a better position than they were 20 months ago. If any, they're weaker. Politically, they have practically no support among the Ethiopian population. Eritrea is stronger. They know every Eritrean, from Alaska, in Latin America, in Europe, in the Middle East, everywhere, forget about those of us who are here, is ready to sacrifice his life to protect his sovereignty. Now, in any comparison between our situation, in any area of this conflict, they are in a weaker position. That's what we think. Now, the basic question is, why this? I mean, you try to make logic of this. Even war has to have logic. You know, when we were fighting for our independence, of course, there was an Ethiopian empire. They want to colonize Eritrea, and we want to have our sovereignty, our independence, like every other African country. So there was a clarity in the war. What is this people want?
So do you think the Ethiopian people have awakened to this cloudiness of the reasons that the TPLF is coming up with, thus very minor support, whereas in our case it's unequivocally 100% support? Can you comment on that, on the popular support?
Well, of course it is. Eventually, of course, the popular support for Eritrea is not a new thing. We won our independence because we had a complete support of the Eritrean people. We had no major country sponsoring our war of liberation, and we had no big brother out there giving us millions. We defended, we fought, and we financed our war of liberation by ourselves. We built our country in the 9 months practically. I'm not saying there is no support at all, but practically on our own efforts and our support on the Eritrean people abroad. This war, the last 20 months, I think it's evident to everyone that it is being supported continuously by, of course, Eritreans here at home, but also Eritreans abroad. Now, this, when it translates in the Ethiopian thing, are we saying, they try to do the same. They went to foreign countries in Washington to collect Ethiopian money and all that, but of course, that was a disaster. And they know. First, as I said, the impression was created that we Eritreans somehow were invading Ethiopia, and every Ethiopian naturally felt, well, why are they doing this? But as things clarified that this is cloud of lies and propaganda, sort of sunshine blew through it, it became obvious that we Eritreans have no interest in invading anybody. That in fact, the cause was the opposite, that the Ethiopians secretly be first. I mean, there is an official document in 1997, the President Isaias Afwerki, the President of the State of Eritrea, has written an official letter to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles, saying, you know, you people keep invading our country. Ademurug has been invaded. I mean, you've got to solve this problem sooner or later, peacefully. Of course, the response was, you know, not clear. So the question there is, this clarity did come out eventually, and you cannot say that there is support for this regime in Ethiopia for war. People are starving. People want to have peace. Now, if it's land, there is a resolution. I mean, where are we going for a piece of land to war? I mean, the international community, every country, everywhere, if you go, there is a territorial claim from one or the other. I mean, you can go Egypt and Sudan, Saudi and Yemen. And, I mean, you can go on, Cameroon and Nigeria. I mean, these people don't go for death or life war. I mean, they settle it, either bilateral, or you go through a third party, or you go to the UN, or you go to the OAU, or whatever, or International Court of Justice. So this is not territorial question. It's not a question of a piece of border. Borders are a source of conflict for nations. And conflicts do arise. How do you resolve them? That's a question. But the point is, we are faced with a war of attrition. And we don't even know why, because what they say is changed every day. So whatever it is, our country is under threat, and we are going to defend it. And that's what the National Assembly...
Yeah, okay, the TPLF propagandistic media machine has portrayed us, especially in the first, at the beginning, as we are warmongers and that we are really trying to fight with our neighbors. And obviously the peace with the Sudan and the Yemen has proven otherwise. So how does that expose the TPLF regime in the international arena?
No, it's not in the propaganda. You have to realize even the declaration of war was based on these premises, that Eritrea is engaged in war with Sudan and Yemen and whatever, and then it's weakened and we can finish them off. And then the perception out there in the world is Eritrea, in fact, is aggressive and it has to be destroyed. And this is their declared policy. Now, what if you go back in these 20 months as the situation with Yemen? The Yemenis invaded our island. I represent my government in this peaceful resolution.
The Hanish Commission.
But we negotiated, we bilaterally discussed, we went to the arbitration court, and thanks to the mature leadership in both countries, this conflict was resolved by the arbitration court. And both of us accepted the judgment of the court, and we are back into our peaceful resolution. With Sudan, whatever happened between Eritrea and Sudan, the Sudanese themselves have admitted this was due to the internal developments in Sudan itself. And that has been corrected now. And we are very close and friendly relations with Sudan, and we are back in the process. So this claim that Eritrea somehow to be engaged with neighbors didn't work. Of course, now it's clear to every objective observer that our relation with Sudan wasn't a fault of ours. That with Yemen, we're trying to fight to defend our territory, and we peacefully accept whatever resolution. Now, if there is any sense in this Tigray leadership, they will learn from this course of action. We can't go to court or EU judgment or UN judgment and settle this border conflict. It does not need to go this far. But of course, that was not the intention. The intention was they declared a map that they put in Mekelle, and they want that into praxis, and through that, of course, destroy the state of Eritrea as an independent state. Of course, they accept the sovereignty of Eritrea, but of course, they will have their clique here, so they can run this as they are running the Ogaden region or the Oroma region. But that's not going to happen. That doesn't make sense, because they know better than anybody that we did pay and will continue to pay to protect our right.
So we can easily say that this is another failure on the propaganda arena.
Yeah, and it's not only just propaganda failure, it's a political failure, it's a misconceived failure, it's a disastrous failure. And the worst failure is they have burned every bridge that they can retract from. That's, of course, a political failure with consequence on it. That's why now accepting the peace to them doesn't look as an attractive one, because they have embittered the Eritrean people. They have evicted the Eritreans who have supported them in Addis, in all Ethiopia. They have confiscated their property. They have abused their basic human right. The war was not, even in war there is some civility, you know. You bomb Ad-Duqayh, there is no military base there. There is a small police station in the city of Ad-Duqayh. They bomb a church near a small children's school. Now, and the Air Force, understandable, one can make a mistake in bombing, but you can't make a mistake in Ad-Duqayh. There's nothing near it. It's up in the hill. Now, this sort of vicious, inhumane attacks against Eritreans, this obscene propaganda, you know, it's violating. It's not even comprehensible. It's as if they would never want, you see, this war will pass. We and Tigrayans and Ethiopians would have to live together. That's our destiny. And whatever you do, you ought not to destroy the long-term relationship between these two countries. So the failure is in every concept,
in every sphere,
in a sphere of activities that one can.
Okay, what's the National Assembly's vision for Eritrea in the coming years, in especially in the as a Minister of Health, I mean the social services and health and things of that nature, if you can.
Well, you see, we've been trying to do both, of course, and we have been successful. You know, whatever, we are engaged in a war that we didn't choose, nor we decide to, but it's enforced on us. 30 years of war was enforced on us. Again now, war is being enforced on us. Once again, we have to defend ourselves. But then we had serious and long-term plans to improve our educational programs, to improve our health services. I'm following up, to improve our agricultural production, the rest of it. But none of it really, I mean, with all the propaganda that you hear in the world, none of it has really been stopped. For example, in the last 2 years, Eritrea produced a farm production that it has never done in the previous history of its life. I mean, none.
For the first time.
For the first time in the history of Eritrea, we have the greatest product in the farm products. Why? Of course, we are challenged, and we can feed ourselves.
Despite the
whole economic challenge, our young men are trying to protect their land. Our farm products is incredibly successful. And the thing I know in health, in every area, in our fight against malaria, I mean, control of AIDS, in building the infrastructure necessary to provide hospitals and clinics, our medical supply, our training, everything is going on schedule. Our educational system the same. Our infrastructure, building roads, airports, is going at an incredibly double, 3 times the pace. Of course, you have to realize this is. We were told, but Eritreans cannot survive. You see, there is, as all of us know, imperial concept that came from Ethiopians for a long time, that Eritrea cannot survive.
That was the premises
That is the premises. With all these experts, economic experts, political, Eritrea really is a small state. Its land is really not productive, and so it's not fertile. So it really cannot survive with Ethiopia. Well, that's what the premise of Ethiopia was, and this new Tigray just took this as a dogma, and, you know, that we cannot even feed ourselves. Well, we try, we show the world we can't feed ourselves, and in the most difficult circumstances. Now we cannot say, the assembly did not say the war didn't affect us. Of course it did. Our most productive elements are trying to protect their land, which they shouldn't have to do. There's enough protection. But we're forced. Our economic emphasis that we could have invested more, we have to invest on defense. And so because our existence as a free people is in question, and everything is secondary. So with comparing this, I think this war, this challenge has been great for us, for Eritrea. It's united us. It shows our determination to protect our land and do economic development at the same time. We have done it.
Okay. On the election issue, is pushed because of the current situation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, as I said, there are many areas that would affect it. You know, one of the affected is, you know, we had one of the best constitutional forming assembly. We wrote a constitution that was popularly supported, that has been discussed thoroughly for the last 3 years. It was approved in a National Constitutional Assembly 2 years ago, and we were supposed to run an election hearing. I mean, we could have run an election. Any state can run an election. It's stuff those papers with boxes and this there. And we don't want to play games on this. We want this constitution to be real, to be honest, and to be verifiable, and to be supportable by the people of Eritrea. Because this is how it's going to lead. This constitution is what's going to lead how we can live, how we deal with each other. It has to do with the law, it has to do with the right of Eritrean people, it has to do with the role of the government, with the role of civil society. It has to do with the rest of for generations to come. So we're not going to do it for expediency in 1 year under war situation. So we had to postpone it. And we discussed it in the assembly. It has to be postponed because this is one of the most difficult periods in the history of our people. Now, are we going to postpone it forever? No. We'll wait until there is a proper condition that the majority of Eritreans could participate freely in putting this constitutional assembly framework into practice. Not an election putting your name in a box. There is a program. Is a program inclusive? Is it freely arrived to? How is it going to be implemented? Who will control what? What is the role of the judiciary? You have to build a proper judiciary. There is the executive body. The executive body has to be built. Then you have to have the assembly. The power of making laws and not making them or changing them would be the right of the assembly. So you have to have the right people elected in the assembly. All this needs time and equal participation by all members of the community. You can't do it in a war situation. Of course, you can go to Ethiopia. The Tigrayans are telling us
In fact, that was going to be my second question.
Yes.
Yeah, my next question, as you say, what's the nature of the Ethiopian election now?
Well, you see, you don't want to talk about the internal conditions for other countries. For example, one of the things they say openly is, we're going to change the regime in Eritrea. We don't like it. This is preposterous, of course. It's illegal, for one thing. I mean, what right who gives them the divine right to change the leadership of another country? That is an elementary legal tenet of international law. Whether they can do it or not is it practical, do they have the ability to do it, is something else. But it's legality. I mean, a question of a sovereign state is the right to have any leadership you choose. If you didn't want that leadership, it's the responsibility of that state, the people in that state, to change it. Now, the Wayanas cannot sit there and say, well, we don't like the government as man, I will change it. I mean, that in itself is illegal. It's an arrogant and belligerent statement, and it challenges and offends all Eritreans. I mean, this is what sovereignty means. The sovereignty means that the right to be ruled by the people whom you choose to be ruled. Nobody else chooses for you. Now, if the Wayanes system of government is not liked by Ethiopians, it's the responsibility of Ethiopians. We have an intention of changing the regime in Addis Ababa. That's not our business. Of course, you would prefer that there will be a peaceful leadership, that we will jointly work together, as we attempt to do in the beginning, that this will be the benefit of both countries.
The most ideal
situation, even not ideal. Livable situation. If conflicts come, you resolve them. You try. Both of us are a very poor country. We should work together to improve the living standard of our community. That's the whole point. Politics, of leadership, of struggle, is to improve the standard of living of your own people. And now, if you couldn't do that, then at least everybody goes home. Everybody takes care of their business. But you can't claim and openly that you're going to change. You don't like this government, you're going to change it. I mean, to me, that seems to be so preposterous that it doesn't even make sense. But anyway, whatever the situation is, we are not going to say who the Ethiopians should elect. That's up to the Ethiopians. But there are elementary principles when you run an election. At least the country should be in peace. At least there should be a leadership working for peace. So the people will have the time to reflect, to participate
in the platform,
and also in both being elected and also in the formation of the. See, it's not the election in the box, as you said. It's a platform that's important. What is Ethiopia going to be like? Is this ethnic division among Ethiopians a good thing? What have Ethiopia done, the leadership of Ethiopia done in the last 9 years? You must be able to answer these questions. Ethiopia is at war. Ethiopia is starving. Ethiopia is being attacked by every disease under the sun. Ethiopia is in war with each other. Ethiopia is at war with Sudan. No, not with Sudan, with Somalia. They have invaded Somalia. They are in conflict with Kenya. They are insulting the Sudanese because now they have a good relationship with Sudan. They are viciously attacking it in an obscene way. They are very virulent about it. So why is Ethiopia, how is Ethiopia going to run a truly representative election? We don't see it, but it's not our decision. They want to run it. That's their business.
So all these negativities that you just mentioned are not conducive for a just election, or
obviously. So what they're looking for is, of course, another 5 years of a cover that their authority emanates from a democratic process. Of course, an elementary child knows that's not the case. To say we run an election, now we are elected for 5 years to run Ethiopia. I mean, are the Oromos going to be represented fairly in this election? Are the Somalis? Are the people in Sidamo? Are the people in Tigray going to express themselves in a state of war What kind of leadership they will have? Obviously, you don't need to be an expert in politics in this sense. It's going to be a sham. But it's, of course, it's a sham. It was a sham 5 years ago. It's a sham now. There is no difference. To us, what interests us all is whatever they do in their country, we need to tell everybody in this world, that everybody knows, we want to solve this thing once for all in peace. Whatever they do in their homes, that's the business of the Ethiopians, but they should not keep us, because this war now, you have to realize, one of the purposes of starting this war was to unite Ethiopians behind this minority government. This minority government was losing its authority and its legitimacy. The people in Ethiopia were challenging its right to lead this nation. They were challenging its primary premises of dividing Ethiopia on the basis of ethnicity. They were questioning its Ethiopianness itself, because these people who are leading in Addis now were against everything that stands Ethiopia for. They didn't even believe in Ethiopia's existence before. So this challenge is, you have to create something. Well, of course, an invasion of Eritrea will do two things.
One, to unite the whole
exactly.
For
you tell the Amharas, we're going to get Eritrea back. Don't worry. You get the generals who have committed crime against the people of Tigray and Eritrea, you give them the leadership role. You tell all the other Ethiopians, we're going to bring back the big Ethiopia in power. That way you deceive few people. In Tigray, you tell them, well, Eritrea is yours anyway, and you get them engaged. So this was to be as a source of unity, because it was disintegrating. It worked for a while, for a year or so. Now it's coming back with viciousness. It's coming back. The
boomerang
chickens to roast is boomerang down. So the war, instead of becoming a source of unity, is draining their energy. It's exposing their false premises about Eritrea, and it's making them in a defense position.
Minister Meki, there is something that's of concern to all of us. I mean, the deportees. But the international community doesn't seem to do much about it, to the plight of the deportees and all the inhuman things. What do you make out of this?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be strange to us Eritreans. For 30 years, we were bombed, gassed, murdered, hungered. Who said no to Ethiopia? Who said stop? Why are you doing this to Eritreans? I mean, these people are asking their right for self-determination. I mean, to us, it shouldn't come as a surprise. During the struggle, we are used to this, and especially you and me, you remember, and we would go around screaming everywhere, and nobody will listen. So, first we have to know, whatever the international community believes on force, it believes on power, and these Ethiopians have created, I mean, this I'm talking about the previous regimes in Ethiopia. This is a big Ethiopia, Africa. It represents in East Africa the biggest country. It's a lake in the middle of all these Arab countries.
All the myth.
All that myth of 5,000 years history and all that. Now, that takes a long time. We Eritreans have a big job to do. We have to cut down all those fabrics and get into the real material. And so, if their answer, of course, is, well, really we can't push too much this way, because if they disintegrate, Ethiopia would really be worse than Somalia. The Oromos and the Tigrayanas and the Amharas and the rest of them would be killing each other. So there has to be some force in Addis. Well, I mean, this is of course a false analysis. We have heard this for 30 years before. These people do not represent Ethiopia. They do not represent the interests of Ethiopia. And they don't represent even the people of Tigray. So you cannot say if you touch them or if you criticize them, somehow Ethiopia will disintegrate. I mean, the opposite will be the case. But anyway, that is their answer. We have to keep presenting that these people, I mean, how can a state, these people receive the awareness in Addis. These people support them during an election. They support them politically. They support them economically. They helped build what is this called Addis Ababa today through their hard work. How can you just throw them in one day? You come at night, you take them out of the shop, you separate a mother from a child, you throw them on the war front without any legal process, even a kangaroo legal process. These people have not even right to defend themselves. Most of them believe it as themselves as Ethiopians. They were born there. They were raised there. Now, to commit such a crime against defenseless people really is inexcusable. has absolutely nothing to do with the war. If you want a war, it's the APLF and the APLF army. You want to fight that, fine. Fight the Eritreans in the war front. But to the bitterness, the ugly feeling inside is ununderstandable to us, because we Eritreans are nature are not that much vicious, not that bitter about something. And it's not understandable. Why wouldn't the world say, the OAU is sitting in Addis, the UN is sitting in Addis? How can't you say, well, why are you doing this to these people? If they have done a crime, take them to court. They won't take their property, well, you should take it and confiscate under legal terms if you have any legal base. If there is no compensation, there is no time for eviction. And how would you evict a genuine Ethiopian? They're Ethiopians, were born and raised there. And so to us it's not excusable. We have to present our case to the world. We cannot say, oh, the world ignored it. You know, you say the human rights. Mr. Robinson has condemned this. The UN has expressed desire. The United States has expressed its opposition to this act. Of course, it's not as much, and it did not come with any punishment. They were just criticized for a day and forgotten, and we feel they should not get away with it. They should not get away with what they have done to civilians and children.
Okay. Well, I'm done with my questions. If you have anything to add, please
I think
feel free.
the National Assembly, if it really was impressive, one was the solidarity of the Eritreans everywhere. I mean, it really surprised us, even us, really. I mean, the total and absolute commitment for the national good, the sacrifice to protect this country and this nation, and to be disciplined enough. Even there are Ethiopians here. No Eritrean touched them. Forget about the government, of course, by parliament has passed the law, the no Ethiopian, but it's something else when you go to the people. Every Ethiopian, as me and you well know, who live in Asmara, have every right as any other Eritrean.
It's a de facto.
It's a de facto acceptable thing. So when you see these people's, our people's commitment, or even all this done against them, the discipline, their ability to show that they will pay any price to have a sovereign free state is really an amazing, phenomenal thing. Even though we know it, but this is really a natural phenomenon. I hope this will be changed, and we continue in defending ourselves, and once this is resolved, and we hope that this be resolved peacefully. Of course, as you well know, they are threatening a war. They are saying this hour, tomorrow morning, even say days, which day they are going to invade.
The drums have been beat.
They are being built on the ground. It's not just only talk. But the Eritreans are solid on this, that will defend our land, that also will continue our economic development, and our solidarity and our unity is, I think, for the world to see and admire and learn.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Dear viewers, thank you for joining us, and we'll join you next week. Same place, same time. Thanks.
Dina?